about what our life is like living with COVID, which I suspect is going to be the next 6 months or so until a vaccine is widely available. And it's probably a pretty good estimate. But for the next 6 months, we're going to have to figure out how to live with this every day. And we're taking some steps forward today. And I want to start by thanking the Detroit Pistons, who have made an enormous contribution to this community as part of the community benefits process when we brought the Pistons downtown. And they are putting basketball courts in parks across the city and running all kinds of youth programs. Those have been suspended as a result of COVID, but now with our infection rate down around 1%, we believe it is possible to bring young people back together in a socially distanced manner to have parks activities. And they're starting to be introduced today at 5 of the city parks spaced across the city. Adams Butzel over on the west side, Clark Park in southwest Detroit, Palmer Park on the north side, Pingree Park on the east side, and Jane Field, more in the center east of the city. Every day from noon to 5, Wednesday through Sunday, the Pistons will be out organizing activities for our youth to participate in. It won't be the full contact activities, but they will be a significant step in the right direction. The creativity of the Pistons on this has been just terrific. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Alicia Jeffries from the team to talk about what they're doing. Alicia?
Great. Thank you, Mayor Duggan, for inviting us here today. We're excited to roll out our second season of the Pistons Neighbors program. And this year it was amplified through funding through the William Davidson Foundation and the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, and in partnership with Biederman Redevelopment Ventures. So last year we rolled out the inaugural program at 2 parks, Bennett and Rouge, and as the mayor mentioned, we're now extending that to 5 parks, and we're going to run for eight weeks, which I think is fantastic to expand the program in year 2. The program is part of our Greater Basketball for All initiative that coincides with Tom Gore's commitment to the refurbishment of the 60 courts in conjunction with the city. And, renovating the courts has always been just step 1 for us. It's not where our commitment ends. So program elements have included distributing basketballs to children in the city and making sure we encourage usage of the refurbished courts, as well as creating sustainable programming. And this year 2 of this program is doing just that. And so the program will include, as the mayor mentioned, things like daily drop-in activities, sports training, fitness equipment on site at each park, and there will be scheduled programming at every park each week, including music, dance, arts. So a really great cross-section of different types of activities for the community to enjoy. And the nice part is all programming is free, and it's available to everyone to participate. To sign up for programming, you can do one of 2 things. You can visit pistons.com/neighbors, and there's a registration link there. Or you can also register on site at each of the parks. There will be availability to do that when you arrive there. And then, lastly, just to wrap up, the health of our community is obviously for the Pistons our top priority as activities commence in each park. Just so you know, our staff and engagement instructors are trained in COVID safety protocols that follow, obviously, CDC guidelines and are equipped with personal protection equipment. And additional activities will be properly social distanced and using non-shared materials, also part of the CDC guidelines that we're following for the city and the state officials that they've shared with us. So the program will provide free masks, gloves, and hand sanitizers for any participants who arrive at the parks. So again, for more information, you can visit www.pistons.com/neighbors. And with the help of our foundation partners and BRV, we look forward to really a great program this year and continued expansion this year and beyond. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Megan, who is going to just talk a little bit about how we went through the process to actually determining the program for this year.
Thanks, Alicia. Yeah, so I think that last year when we programmed at Rouge and Bennett Park, since basically that season ended, we've been working very closely together to figure out how this program can expand. We, at the city, were so excited to see the willingness of the partners involved to expand, not just in terms of the programs that were made available, but also in terms of the geography and spacing these out all around the city for greater access for Detroiters. But then COVID hit, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to bring this program to light this year. But, you know, something that we all recognize working in Parks and Rec is how important parks are, especially at this time, both for our physical health and our mental health. So we have worked incredibly closely with the health department and with the state and with the Pistons, Davidson, and Wilson Foundations to figure out a way to really make sure that residents feel comfortable and safe and know that their safety and security is a top priority when they participate in these programs. So I wanted to direct everyone to the Parks and Recreation homepage, where you will find a lot of resources that we've been working on, from a COVID safety playbook to our new permitting forms that now include health department sign-off, as well as some ways to connect with us virtually. And then also some mental health tips for families that we worked on in partnership with Wayne State University. So all of that has gone into the Pistons Neighbors program, and we are so excited that families will be able to sign up for these events for children and for adults. Everyone can participate, everyone can play. And just know the kind of meticulous level of detail that has gone into ensuring your safety as part of this. Programming during this time takes a lot of extra time, capacity, and resources, and we would not be able to do that without the partners that we have here at the table and their amazing support, really putting Detroit families at first and recognizing the joy that parks can bring. So thank you for that, and excited to answer any questions.
So we're glad to have the Pistons partnerships, and this is another step toward reactivating recreational opportunities. We have made a full commitment to the maintenance of the parks across the city. I think as our residents know and are out enjoying them, we put the basketball hoops back on in May and June that we had to take down at the height of COVID when the governor had us under extreme restrictions quite appropriately, but now the basketball courts are all open, and now we're taking the next step. It'll be a while before we could run recreation activities inside the recreation centers, but now we can have group activities organized outdoors, and you can just drop in from noon to 5. If some of these activities turn out to get high volumes of participation, there is a registration process to make sure that your slot for that activity is guaranteed, that you'll find on the website. But even if you haven't registered, just show up, and we're going to keep doing this. We are going to keep slowly but surely opening up opportunities as long as our infection rate stays where it is, and Detroiters are continuing really to lead the state of Michigan in a commitment to social distancing and holding down the spread of COVID. The second thing we want to talk about is housing security. And you've seen lots of resources for things like evictions, which are basically under a moratorium, but also there's rental assistance programs, there's legal assistance. We also want to continue to make sure that you take advantage of every single break in the property tax payments that you can. And so the city has the property tax exemption program that we call HPTAP. I'm not sure who named that, but now so many people know it, I don't think we can change it. But basically what it means is this. If you're an individual who makes less than $22,000 a year, or a family of 4 that makes less than $32,000 a year, there is an excellent chance that you are entitled to have a portion or all of your property taxes forgiven year in and year out. We do not want to be pushing people out of their homes, particularly with what we have going now with Proposal N, where we're going to renovate 8,000 vacant houses. We don't want 8,001 or 8,002 or 8,003. We want to keep you in your house so we can put this issue of abandoned houses behind us once and for all. The program as it has worked, as those who are familiar with it know, it is an old-fashioned paper program. You get your form, you write your form out with a pen, you put a stamp on an envelope, you mail it in, and you drive it down to the city and drop it off. we have now joined the 21st century. And as of this week, you can simply go on the city website and fill out your HP TAP form on our website and hit a button. It is the easiest it's ever been. The idea is to dramatically expand the accessibility to make sure nobody is pushed out of their house for property tax payments when you are entitled to a break. And the administrator of the Board of Review and the man who has been behind much of this program is going to explain the details, Mr. Willie Donwell.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to let me speak today. The Board of Review provides this opportunity under state law. So every municipality is actually able to offer this process, but the City of Detroit has provided a larger and I believe much better opportunity, largely because of the current administration working closely with City Council to provide opportunity for homeowners. Just real quickly, I also want to mention that if it had not been for the current mayor, there probably would have been a lot more people losing their homes to tax foreclosure because of the PAYS process. And so I'm going to briefly speak about how HP TAP works and how it connects to PAYS. So the current process where a person, homeowner, can actually just go to detroitmi.gov/HP TAP and scroll down to the middle of the page, and there's a little green button. And it says, click here for the HP TAP. It takes you through a very simple process for completing the application. Everything is spelled out, and it's exactly like the written application. So if you've done it in the past, you're already familiar with it. And those that are not familiar with it, it provides locations where the information that should be placed. You cannot go past that unless you enter the information. So it's very helpful to make sure that you complete the application correctly. And as you go through the application, the second page provides 14 community partners. 14 community partners provided through the efforts of the Quicken Loans Community Investment Fund to assist homeowners. The other part I want to make sure is clear, all of this is free to homeowners. This is free. The application process is free, and contacting the community partners is free. So it is important that we understand that there is a lot of efforts being made to support homeowners in staying in their homes. The whole idea of making sure that the exemption process is a part of what happens with PAYS is because PAYS was established under state law. Governor Whitmer signed it in March of this year. COVID hit, and there were just a lot of people that just could not get to the process. So we know we needed something so that people could connect to the community and connect and get their applications turned in. So the online process provides that. Once we complete the application and grant an exemption if it's approved, we then send that information to the county treasurer, which has graciously extended the period in which they will take people out of foreclosure and enter them into the PAYS program. He's extended it to September the 15th. The first group of individuals, which was about 4,622, that was processed in the beginning of this year, over half of them were eligible and have now paid off their back taxes. That's phenomenal. But you cannot get into the PAYS program unless you have completed and been approved for an exemption application. There are several levels in which a person can be granted, and being granted by any of those levels makes you eligible for PAYS, which is fantastic. So you can get a full exemption, a 50% exemption, a 25% exemption, or the board can actually deviate from the guidelines based upon what's called substantial and compelling reasons. We know that there are situations where there are individuals who have lost their jobs. We know there are situations where we have seniors that's trying to make the decision between medication and food. That's just a reality of the day. So the Board of Review has that ability, actually under the law, to make a determination based upon what's called substantial and compelling reasons. So tell us your situation. Again, if we can get you granted and you have back taxes, that is going to get you into the PAYS program, which is going to make you responsible for no more than 10% of the taxable value of your property. So imagine a homeowner who has owed $21,000 in back taxes could actually take them down to only owing about $8,000. This is phenomenal. So we need to make sure that people understand you can go online, complete the application, submit it to the Board of Review, allow the Board of Review to make that determination, get you eligible for pays so we can keep you in that home. Last year, we did over 9,000 applications and less than 1% were denied.
All right, so I know this can seem confusing. The bottom line is this: the city and the county and these 14 agencies are all on your side to make sure your property tax payments don't push you out of your house. If you're a single person making less than $22,000 or family of four making less than $32,000, go on the site, get one of these agencies, you can get a break on your future taxes. And if you were in the old payment program, you're eligible for pays. It may cut half of your payments off, and more than 2,500 people have already gotten a great break. So the tax exemption program gives you a break going forward, and if you're already in a payment plan, the pays program gets you a significant break going backwards, and there are people who want to help you cut these down. Our goal is nobody else is pushed out of a house, no more vacant houses in the city of Detroit. So please, go to the city website, and if you fall in those income categories, you'll find that people are there to help you. The other aspect of housing security is your utility payments. And Gary Brown and the Water Department have done an outstanding job of putting programs in place that have stopped people moving out of their houses or losing their water service because of non-payment of bills, and we've talked about that in detail. But you also have gas and electric bills. And DTE has a program that has been very successful that they have been running for some time. And they want to make sure that every Detroiter knows about the availability of help so you can pay your gas and utility and your gas and electric bills and stay in your house. And so Tamara Johnson from DTE is here to talk to you about the help that's available on your other utility bills. Tamara?
Thank you, Mayor. Just first want to start by thanking you, giving me this opportunity to address DTE's customers and really let everyone know that we are here to help. As the mayor mentioned, we have various programs that we've developed in response to the crisis. So we really want you to reach out to us at 1-800-477-4747. We have developed personalized plans that really meet your current financial needs, as well as we can connect you with other agencies that will provide you assistance. And so one of the funds that's available in the state of Michigan is the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. And so that's the fund that is available that helps customers in needs to pay down their current past due balances. And so we really need you to reach out to us so that we can help you. This protects you from having loss of gas or electricity. We also have a program that we've been doing for quite some time, which is referred to as our low-income self-sufficiency program. And that program is for our most vulnerable customers. It does assist the customer with financial education as well as energy waste reduction opportunities. And if you're able to join this program, it also protects you from service interruption. So please reach out to us at 1-800-477-4747. We definitely have a plan that is unique and specialized to meet your needs. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we'll take any questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. M.L. Elric from the Detroit Free Press. With the programs PAYS and HP TAP, does the city know how many people are eligible for those programs and how many people are taking advantage of those programs?
Well, we know on the PAYS program, It's about 4,500 and about 2,500 have already enrolled. On the HP TAP program, we don't know. But it's anybody in the city who's an individual who makes less than 22,000 or a family of four that makes less than 32,000 that owns the house and is using the primary resident exemption in their property tax bill. And so it's a large number, far more than have applied.
We saw with the water restoration program where the Department of Water and Sewerage became very aggressive in terms of contacting people, let them know what programs they were available for, eligible for, even going to the extent of door knocking. I know in that case, we're talking of hundreds of customers as opposed to thousands of customers. Do you see the city being able to do something beyond just alerting people to what's available, to identify people and actively saying, hey, you're not enrolled, you should think about getting enrolled?
Well, we have done that for the last 2 or 3 years. Michelle Oberholtz, the United Community Housing Coalition, the Quicken Loans Fund, and those 14 agencies that we listed, they paid for people to door knock thousands of houses. Now, where they started was people who had a notice that they could be subject to foreclosure. And they basically knocked on every single door that got one of those yellow notices and said, do you know the opportunities that are available to you? And we've cut the number of occupied foreclosures by something like 95% in 5 years. We'd like not to wait till you get the notice to come knock on the door. And so that's the reason for doing this. But in the next month, I've tasked Deputy Mayor Conrad Mallett with the job of rolling out the Community Health Corps, which will be a group of city employees who actually go into homes and talk to the family about your entire situation. Do you need help with the state program for food assistance? Do you need job training? Are you behind in your utility payments? Does your son or daughter need a summer job and Grow Detroit's Young Talent? Do you have mental health needs? And so it will include this as part of that. We're excited to do that. We're going to talk about that at length in the next few weeks. I know the deputy mayor is going day and night on that. But right now, we're hoping with your great following, ML, we get a whole bunch of people to just go online and sign up without anybody having to come to your house.
Okay, well.
I don't know if Mr. Donwell wants to add to that answer.
Absolutely. You know, the efforts today in terms of trying to get people to use the online portal versus us actually physically working with people, just imagine how many more people we're able to help.
But the paper option's still available for people who might not be able to connect online and what have you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can actually download the application itself online, and then it's available. And just adding to what the mayor said, we actually did a mailing to all residential properties in the city. Over 188,000 people were mailed a paper application just recently.
Okay, great, thank you. In terms of the recreation program with the Pistons, is there a maximum or a capacity for how many kids you can accommodate?
I can speak to that, and if Alicia has anything to add. So there's a number of different types of programs that will be offered, and so the capacity really varies according to what program we're talking about. So I don't imagine that anyone will be turned away if they show up on site, but we are keeping a close eye on that, and we have specific limits that we've worked on with the health department for different types of activities, depending on the space that's available.
And I just talked to the staff that's out at Pingree Park, and there aren't any kids there right now. So if you head out to Pingree Park right now, you're going to have the full attention of the Pistons staff.
You get your choice.
But
Okay.
today's the first day.
Okay, great. And are there other recreation programs in the city right now for kids who might not participate in this or who may have an interest somewhere else at another site?
So we have a number of different things that we've been working on slowly. As the mayor said, we're trying to slowly build back up to a place where we feel comfortable safely implementing these programs. If you go to our website, you'll see everything that we have available. Up to this point, we've been doing things like providing equipment distribution that was paired with our food distribution and then pairing that with virtual opportunities. And we have a full slate of virtual opportunities next month that will be available if you're part of our Parks and Recreation community and are looking for that. And we'll continue to unroll more and more of these as we learn from the Pistons program and that experience and become more comfortable with the parameters of what we're doing.
And are we planning to restart soccer in the fall?
I think that's still to be
Okay,
determined.
I guess I spoke too soon.
All right, well, we'll be back before then. Your Honor, given the violence that we've seen in the neighborhoods and the number of shootings, is there anything Detroit police can be doing that they haven't done so far to try and take the guns off the street or to reduce these shootings?
The system has to work together. And we're analyzing right now, if you make an arrest and the person doesn't stay in jail, the prosecution doesn't occur, repeat offenders aren't dealt with, then the arrest by itself doesn't do anything. And so we're having conversations with county officials right now to make sure the whole system works together. And then I was very encouraged by U.S. Attorney Matthew Schneider today. I watched his press conference, and while we didn't initiate it, it's something I've been waiting for a long time. Back when I was prosecutor, I would say to the ATF, this city is flooded with illegal guns. You're the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. You ought to be taking a lead role in getting these illegal guns out of circulation. And I was very encouraged by what I heard today, and I was especially encouraged by the emphasis that the U.S. Attorney placed in the fact this is going to have nothing to do with protests. We're not having any Homeland Security officers in here. This is going to help reduce gun violence. If you can get the Detroit Police Department, the sheriff, the county executive, the prosecutor, the U.S. Attorney, the ATF, the DEA, the marshal, all on the same page, and we're moving in that direction, the system together has to work. And it's definitely going to help when the courts reopen and we can move these cases.
So as far as that goes, the diversion of police resources to monitor the protests early on, do you attribute any of the increase in violence to the reallocation of police officers in June and I guess into July?
The fact that you've seen it in so many cities across the country suggests that there's definitely a relationship. The chief could probably give you a better sense. But there's no question, our officers, I mean, it wasn't like we hired a bunch of new officers. We put people on overtime, and they're continuing to work overtime in dealing with the protests. But it is far less than it was, and the chief, I think, is fully staffed now. His gang units and his central investigative units. So I think the police department is much better ramped up. You've seen the numbers the police department has produced in taking guns off the streets. If we can get the rest of the system to work together, we'll start to bring the violence down. And then, one of the things that's really hurt us is ceasefire was working. Once a month, the chief and I and U.S. Attorney Schneider and community groups brought in 30 or 40 people, usually active in gang activity, and sat with them and talked to them face to face and said, here's where you're headed and the direction you're in. Here's a whole range of other education and training programs. And every month, a number of folks said, I don't really think I'm going to get rich and retire in the activities I'm in, and they've signed up for other programs. We haven't been able to do that because of COVID now for the last 5 or 6 months. We need to get back to that. Maybe we'll start doing it in a way that's socially distanced. But there have been a lot of strategies that were working that have been disrupted by COVID in a lot of different ways. And right now, all of us are thinking through how many of those strategies can we put back into place immediately? How many will we fully put back in place when there's a vaccine? And I think today's announcement by Matthew Schneider was a step in the right direction.
So do you attribute the large increase in the violence primarily to gang activity, or do you think there's multiple causes?
Yeah, again, I would have the chief talk about that. There's no question we've seen more gang activity. There's no question there are more people carrying guns than we have seen before. That's what the officers are all telling me. Now, is that because they aren't concerned about the consequences of being arrested with guns, or is it another reason? I think those are questions that, are more appropriately directed to the chief or to the prosecutor.
Okay, this may be another one for the chief, but I'm going to throw it out there, and you can take it or leave it. But do you think that police are less likely to engage with the public now because they feel they're being scrutinized, or that any incident, whether it's a justifiable shooting or not, is going to be used against them by people who are marching in the streets of Detroit.
We haven't seen that from the Detroit Police Department. And I'll go back to this. When body cameras first became available, Detroit was one of the very first cities in America to do it, and it was officers who came to me before I'd even heard of body cameras and actually did demonstrations to try a few of the different brands to see which ones worked, and they recommended this. In many cities in America, the police unions fought their mayors on implementing body cameras. Our police felt like recording these interactions would protect them far more frequently than it would hurt them. And so for now, it's got to be 3 years. We've had a fully integrated dash cam and body cam system, so our officers know they're always on camera. And as you've seen in recent events, our officers were visionary in saying we want to be recording these interactions so that people can't make up stories. So I don't think our officers are any more concerned about being videoed than they were. And if you just look at what our officers have done, they're doing the job. I mean, these Detroit police just deserve our admiration. And you can say what you want about the protesters. The great majority of Detroit police officers agree with the principles of the Black Lives Matter movement. And they were sickened by what happened in Minneapolis. And so they recognize that the systemic racism of the criminal justice system is there, and it has not backed off their commitment. I have not seen it. I think our police are doing a great job.
Okay, and you've been pretty clear about National Guard and other
Right.
law enforcement or troops not being welcome in Detroit. Does that extend to state police patrolling state thoroughfares in the city?
No, we've got a good partnership with the state police. They're on Belle Isle. They're doing the freeways. They have for a while. We have an excellent relationship with the state police. What you have not seen is state police standing next to Detroit police officers along the protest lines. We really felt like that interaction should be between the Detroit Police Department, and as it turns out now, it's not often members of our community that are protesting, but I think that strategy has worked out well. I know they had the National Guard in Grand Rapids and Lansing. The chief and I made a decision early on that we thought we would be better off relying on the Detroit Police Department and the trust it's built in the community. Now, we get up every day and evaluate our strategies, but I think 9 weeks in, that was the right call.
Okay, and do you think, would you welcome or would you request Michigan State Police assistance to try and clamp down on some of this gun violence?
Again, we feel good about our relationship with the state police. Could the state police be part of a fugitive apprehension team that would potentially pick up people with outstanding gun warrants? Sheriff Napoleon has already contributed, with the support of County Executive Evans, a group of individuals to a fugitive apprehension team. There are ways to work together that I think would work, and we're now moving in that direction of getting all the agencies together. The Department of Corrections could be helpful. You've got a lot of people out there with parole and probation violations where the Department of Corrections could potentially intervene and be helpful. So we need everybody working together, and that's what we're talking about right now, and I think everybody's willing to play a part.
And do you envision talking to Sheriff Napoleon and state police and saying, hey, can you give us some more personnel to help us as this summer continues?
Yeah, I don't see patrol being a need. We feel good about where we are. We've got more filled police officer positions today than since I've been here. In fact, they told me today we've only got 90 vacancies out of 2,400, and we had another 33 into the academy this month. Patrol is not our issue, but do you have the time to run down the individuals with outstanding warrants? That's time-consuming. It's a lot of legwork. It's a lot of staking out. The arrest takes multiple people. And so we already, and County Executive Evans really took a lead on this about a year or so ago, have put together a joint team of the city and the county, and we're talking to the marshals and we're talking to the state. But again, these are things really you should talk to the chief about. The solution to this violence is this. Right now, we've got way too many people in the morning who put on a gun without giving it any thought. And when they get in a dispute with somebody, that gun is at hand. We've got to get the guns out of the daily interactions. And that's going to take all of us working together, and it's going to mean ministers, it's going to mean community groups, it's going to mean job training programs. This whole community is going to have to deal with this issue. And again, as I say, those are conversations that are ongoing. We were making major progress in that direction over the last few years. Once we get through this COVID thing, I'm confident we'll make major progress again.
Okay, last question before I turn it over to the class of the group here, Mr. Hewitt. The chief the other day spoke about one of his concerns is the people getting out of jail too easily, and the question of no cash bail. I think it sounds like it's something that he's opposed to. You've said that you think it's something that should be looked at. Can you tell us about that?
We need to look at it, and I've asked for an analysis right now. And the question is this: if somebody is a first, second, third offense, if somebody didn't show up for trial 2 other times, then bail at that point is appropriate. And people should be treated, in my mind, the same based, it shouldn't be distinguished based on an income standing. But on the other hand, if you've skipped out on your hearing and we had to go send out a whole team to arrest you when you skipped out on a bond, you should then have a high bail. But it should be based on your behavior, not based on an income standing. And what the right answer is, we're looking at right now.
Would you make a distinction between violent or nonviolent charges?
Again, you know what, I've got a team looking at it, and I don't want to disrupt what they're doing, but we are looking very carefully now. The chief has a sense that the inability to hold everybody is contributing to that. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I just want to see the data, and we have a team assembling the data right now.
Okay, thanks very much.
Mayor, good to see you. Thank you for the opportunity. John Hewitt, WWJ. I have one question. You've discussed at length pretty thoroughly about the announcement with the attorney, U.S. Attorney today. And what I'm asking, if you'll indulge me a bit of context here, is Mr. Snyder today mentioned law enforcement must strive to do better, his words, but they don't deserve the scorn, suspicion, or mistrust. There were about 100, 150 protesters out front. Following the events in Portland, following the testimony yesterday of the Attorney General, Mr. Barr, in which Michigan was brought up in regard to the incidents at the Capitol, my question is, what do you say to people who are skeptical, who are suspicious and worry that if they see this as a potential opening of the door for something they don't want to see in regard to federal involvement in the city? What do you say to them?
I don't think that I could have been more clear that I believe there is no legal basis whatever for sending Homeland Security to the city of Detroit. And if that's attempted, we'll deal with it appropriately. And I was very pleased today, number one, there are no Homeland Security officers, but second, that Mr. Schneider was emphatic that this would have nothing to do with protests. And the great majority of Detroiters feel the same way, that people should have a right to express themselves in protest as long as they're not assaulting anybody or vandalizing property. But people in the city want something done about gun violence. And those are two very different things. And I do believe we can have freedom of speech and crack down on gun violence at the same time, and I think that's what the U.S. Attorney articulated today.
One last follow-up, if I may. Do you personally feel what people see in Portland has undermined, meaning the actions of law enforcement there have undermined the cause of law enforcement in situations like we're talking about today in Detroit and the addition of agents?
You know, I think you have to look at where the protests are coming from. I'm hearing from Detroiters all over who, you say, defund the police, end green light. They think that's crazy. Okay, those are programs that Detroiters strongly back. But you saw what happened today. An organizer from Ann Arbor organized the protest outside the ATF office with a whole lot of folks who came from Washtenaw County, basically saying Detroit doesn't want resources for gun violence. Then they go back home to Ann Arbor and go to sleep. And I think there is getting to be more and more resentment in this city from people coming in from the outside claiming to speak for the city in these marches. But I think the great majority of Detroiters support the Detroit Police Department, support resources to reduce gun violence, and if the White House changes direction and we see Homeland Security officers coming in here, I'm going to take a very different tone and a very different set of steps. But as I say, the U.S. Attorney's assured me it's not going to happen. I thought he was outstanding today in making clear that this effort would not in any way affect the protests. And he knows that I feel very strongly. One of the few cities that refused to take the National Guard. We didn't want them. We really felt the Detroit Police Department could handle the protests. And Chief Craig and the department for the last 9 weeks have proven that that's true, and we're not going to deviate from that position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you all very much.